So I'm Carsten, and I'm going to talk to you about what I have learned in the past from being in the games industry for 25 years nearly, and where we had situations which are a bit resembling of what we see with NFTs today. So I would say I call it NFTs optional, how to show their beauty, because that they're beautiful, all of us here at NFTBERLIN surely believe, but as we will see as starters, maybe not everybody in digital gaming really feels that way. So actually it's quite hated. Why do I talk to you about that? Well, I have been in that industry for a long time, most importantly as a CEO of the Karlsruhe, southern German-based company called Gameforge. We have been able to grow that to 500 million players over the years, mostly publishing MMORPGs, and especially in the business model of free-to-play, where we're going to talk about a bit more, because that's actually why the guys were so kind as to invite me today here, and that there might be maybe a lesson learned from that. So actually today, on the occasion of being here with you at NFTBERLIN, I have put out of stealth my new startup baby, my thing I've been doing since last summer. So, and it has been coming out just today, so to speak, 2 hours ago. So, what's the situation? Everybody knows that last summer it kind of started with NFTs and gaming. Before, I would have said that it has been somewhat of an unkept promise that it would be great, because the target audiences of core gamers and crypto fans are so tech savvy, so similar, and that they maybe should be a match in heaven. Actually, until last summer, there was not much about that really going on. There was a wave of course, gaming companies in the 2017 ICO craziness, but it didn't really percolate up to the top, I would say, of a top 100 market cap valuations in the ranking. But then last summer, of course, with Axie Infinity, for example, reported numbers in August, if I'm not mistaken, hundreds of millions of US dollars. Everybody thought, hey, listen, there is really something now going on. But then again, the revenge of the digital gamers happened. I start here in October when Steam, the dominating PC distribution platform, simply banned it. And they just added an 8th point to what is not allowed to publish on that platform, as of course pornography, child specifically, all sorts of misogynic things, and then blockchain and NFT containing content. That's it. And the next month, however, the French publishing powerhouse of Ubisoft announced their Quartz initiative and said that together with the Tezos blockchain, you know, Zug, Berlin, Paris, London, these guys, of course, coming out of EOS chain in the beginning with very, very low energy consumption. That's, of course, a fantastic approach to use it for gaming. Ubisoft selected them, and what happened? Well, we'll see. And then in December, so actually, no, it's here already. They got hammered, they got thrashed, and they killed basically everything which they wanted to do because gamers hated it so much. Still, of course, a Galaverse event in November happened, and they are having something like 8 million fully diluted, 8 billion market cap. So that's quite something. So obviously, that being hammered by now as well, but this is also something proving that, you know, this entire space, publishing games, could be good. Then it happened that it was so disliked that the trailer got delisted. Yeah, that was in December, with a 90.6% of rejection rate by the core audience Ubisoft is catering for. Listen, I mean, we are all here at NFTBERLIN, but 96% something, you better care. It goes on and on. So January, we had, here we go. The video, this person has done a great content piece. If ever you want to look into the head of a gamer, that takes more than 2 hours, 15 minutes to watch. And this guy had very, very few normally views on his videos, like tens of thousands at max ever. And he yielded in 7 million views on this 2-hour 20 trashing of NFT as a concept within gaming. And it would not have had that many if it was just some bad mouthing. It is very thought through. So something to watch. In February, one brand which was around for decades with worms announced something, even indirectly were associated, and they have been destroyed PR-wise. Then also in February, Gabe Newell, that's this guy here, who owns and founded and runs that Steam platform of the company Valve. He provided the reasoning of his company, of himself, on why they did so. And again, what happened, he has been applauded, he has been praised. People went really crazy, said, we know why we love Steam, we know why we go there, because he's fighting for us against these NFT guys and banning them, and this is the explanation why. So of course then, as we are coming to today, it was the no funging thanks, no freaking thanks, that's what it all was. And there's big roar that maybe Ubisoft hasn't completely abandoned on the project, because they haven't, and I think they're correctly right to do so. You know, God bless him, Steve Jobs, you all know his famous quotes, they come in all sorts of fashions. Actually, it says, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And yes, many have tried to show touch screens to the world before he did with Apple, but they didn't succeed, because you need to do it right. Of course, he's the poster boy of doing things right, but still, it's not dead because it's not liked, but you need to get it in a way that people don't throw it at you. So, what I have done in digital gaming, and since last century actually, after my financial industry thing, which brings me maybe a little bit of credibility in a certain DeFi space or whatever, I have seen that the traditional value chain in Web 1.0, which we of course know as Eleet, has been that someone is the creative guy who does the coding after someone has written the game design document, and then there's artists bringing in the thing that it looks nice. So these are the guys really doing the job. Then there's the publisher who is providing the financing for that, and who is, so to speak, responsible for getting the piece with his producers into a stage where it can be marketed, which he does with PR and translation and localization and all the rest of it. And back then, when it was being sold, the piece of software, you needed a distributor to ship a so-called box into Media Market, Target, Fnac, wherever in which country you are, where you could sell the piece of software by the merchant as a player. In Web 2, of course, where it was read and write, people were getting more active, there was digital distribution coming up, and the business model of free-to-play, where I'll be referencing to later this talk. And ultimately, of course, today, it did remove the distributor shopping the thing around and the merchant in itself. You could have even said that in Web 2 you don't need a publisher of games anymore, because everybody can go to the stores for mobile devices of Apple and Google, or of that Steam store. But given, for example, in the mobile, most important area, there's about 15 to 20,000 new gaming apps coming to the marketplaces every single month. So you do have a discovery problem, to be honest, if you're not King.com or Supercell, which have their monster audiences from their former successes. Oh, it's so costly to really percolate up with marketing, stay at the top, and then maybe not churn immediately, lose them all. So that's why I do think, I really do, that the publisher is still useful for paying that job, bringing in his former games experiences, his marketing dudes, and so on. You can try go yourself, but it's of course maybe less risky if you go together with a publisher. So, and then in Web 3, the thing I'm starting today is actually that I say, you know what? You could, as we've all seen in DeFi, Be your own bank with decentralization. Be your own insurance company. What I'm saying now, be your own games publisher. And that with a certain layer on top of what things are, and we're going to look in it in a minute. And in that sense, it could be people are becoming the publisher themselves. So, of course, we need to look a little bit into the psyche of this beast, the core gamer who hates NFTs so much. And this is a very old picture. I still like it, you know. I mean, we have well advanced a PS3 by now, and of course the Wii didn't do so well. However, the Switch by Nintendo does. And the perception, of course, always got PC is really mighty, and the others kind of suck in a certain way, and they don't take it so seriously. But that free-to-play concept was quite good. Actually, some people, and it did incorporate from the beginning that content that is being created by people has a value. And the young people, they have the time to play and they can play well, and they don't have the money to buy something off-plate for items and characters and all sorts of things. Whereas the old guys, maybe they have the time and the money, but they lack the skill, and then ourselves, we maybe lack the time, although of course we're still skilled. And it's a bit funny myself talking to the kinds of you, and I don't see so many possibly coming into my age range, but thanks for not yelling, what is that dude telling us? So, and that in principle worked out well, that people can trade with one another even before that being sitting on a blockchain, with a big difference that these units, these characters which have been traded, were of course sold on a secondary marketplace. And then there is a lot of risk, A, that you don't get the characters in-game that you have paid for at the secondary marketplace, or the gold, the in-game currency. And the other danger, that actually the publisher of the game didn't support it and might ban you both, the seller and the purchaser of the thing. Both of which goes away as the publisher in Web3 embraces the concept of trading units. So from a commercial standpoint, you know, I have a background in MBA and stuff, and of course I don't need to tell you that there is money to be made if people like something and play it. It is very simple. The price-demand curve, you all remember, there's a certain price axis and you sell a certain amount. And the higher the price you ask, the lesser amounts you will sell. And in traditional Web 1.0, you were selling a game, a box, a piece of software at an initial high price with a certain quantity, and the one times the other quantity times the price asked is the revenue you made in that point in time. That's the upper image. And then, of course, as the software got older, you reduced the price, you sold more at a lower price, and that was your revenue. In the free-to-play thing, where nobody ever needed to spend, you were actually taking the entire, what's the name again? What's the name again of it? I forgot it. In mathematics? No, yeah, it's the rent, but mathematically the thing between the x-axis and the graph is, of course, the integral. Thank you very much. Of course it is. Stupid me. I should have maybe taken more attention with my kids being in high school. Yes, and then at any single point in time, most people to the right, they actually pay you nothing. They pay you absolutely nothing. 90% of the players don't do anything. And then the next ones pay you extremely little, but all the other ones do exist. The whales, and we talked about the term whales already 10 years ago in gaming, they did exist. And you know, when I happened to be in that role as a CEO at that Gameforge thing, we had a little trade secret that you should absolutely require a core loop that is good enough for people to spend, to enjoy playing and spend at least 2,000 euros every single month. And that's why it works, and that's why there are whales, and it doesn't end there. Because you can be super successful, EA, Electronic Arts, selling Madden, NHL, FIFA, every single year again and again, but it ships for 70 euros or something. And that's where it ends for the entire year. So there's much more free disposable income and a fan base associating their entertainment with spending money. And you can grasp all of that, so the left side of this integral. That's why it works. Of course, people also back then said, oh man, that is really, people have been claiming it's not a nice and fair game anymore, you know? You have a free user with a small tank, and then you have the big monster coming around the corner. You're naked, where the others are being armed, and all the rest of it. They hated it. You know what? I've experienced that firsthand 15 years ago. No special interest journal of the trade industry was going to want to speak to me. At the conferences, if ever you were getting a slot, you were at the last day in the evening. Everybody said, you're giving it away for free because the quality is so bad. And you know what? If you look at revenue composition nowadays, I appreciate her very much. If you want to look for German-based, it is much thought through content on the industry and how it really works. I recommend Petra Fröhlich of Games Wirtschaft. She has a fantastic reputation in the industry and is always knowing things earlier than most other, also of journalists. Of course, there are other great, like Games Wirtschaft is also great. And you know what? So that will come out very soon, the newer numbers for 2021 on the basis of our Berlin-based, of course, game association, which is providing them, and other sources as well. So we still have 2020, and we see the big red thing here. This is in-app purchases in mobile, which is the very same thing as free-to-play. And that's, of course, dominating. And of course not because people are being forced into do that, but because they like it. Because that's what now is the state of the art, although it has been hated 15 years ago. And it is still being hated by some, which is fair enough. Everything which is jolly good is being hated by some others. And now we're coming closer. So here's the high roller again. Actual numbers from a former company of mine, where you see that 10% of the paying customers only. So 10% pay something, 90 never of free-to-play. And then of these, 10% are good for 50% of the revenue, and it continues as steep as it is. So all the way that 2/3 of the revenue are just done by 30% of all of which are paying. So we need to take their criticism serious and yet not give up believing in the benefits of the technology. You know what? Free-to-play for me, it is not trusting what a marketeer has been telling a journalist or has been paying a medium to transport, and then the user used to read it. He was just exposed to information before he needed to do a purchasing decision. And that information was not by himself. At best, it was word of mouth by a friend he trusted. But at the beginning, the opinion must have been built somewhere. By marketing, I guess. By press, and so on. In free-to-play, the offering was, you know what, just start yourself. Play for free. If you like it, and you're not tied in any means, dish out something, and then tomorrow again, you can pay another sum, or you don't. You know what? We've talked about the commercial side, that it can be actually quite beneficial. But from a user perspective, it's even simpler. How can that on earth not be better than being forced to pay an entry ticket before you know what it's all about? And you know what? We are in a perfect situation here where we have a lot of the technology in place to transport the value of NFTs and what play and earn means into the new world, into the new world, into the existing, towards the existing players, if we do it right. And you know what we have seen a bit last summer and autumn and so, I would say, has not always been so fantastically done. Received we have seen, not well received. But because you know what, if you're playing a title and you're being asked before you start playing to dish out a few $100 US of value into NFTs, and then you can start playing. Where are we again? We are back to buy to play. Of course, then there have come up the guilds. Fantastic business model of them in itself, many of them percolating to the top in the respective areas as it comes to market cap, but it's just a facilitator of the same buy-to-play. If you don't have the money to purchase NFTs for $200, go to a guild, they will sponsor you if you're good. It doesn't change the fundamental case, which, sorry? Yes, you can rent. So yeah, we can have fantastic discussion afterwards about the benefits of renting. It's always good if you don't have a house on top of your head that you can rent one and don't need to buy it first. But how about trying whether you want to sleep there, and if it's good, you just stay, and then afterwards you are being asked to pay for it. This was the buy NFTs first. It comes in the other fashion of buying tokens first. It comes in the other fashion, which I might think is worst. Hey, you can participate in our thing here if you just purchase yourself a node. It comes at maybe something $50,000 or so, but then you're participating of what is being done. I leave it to any single one of you to form an opinion about that. If I hear that as a gamer, I know why they get 7 million views on 2 hours, 20 minutes straight of non-repetitive criticism of the concept. You know, if you're being told that now you own, because in the past it has been on proprietary databases, AWS or whatever, and when the game dies, the thing is done. And you, even in free to play, you spend something. 10% spent, some of which a lot, and then it's just gone. Well, you could have sold it on secondary marketplaces, we talked about it. But what is the proposition here? Does it really always stay together? There are metaverses which are offering, come to us with all of your NFTs of the world. We draw them together like in famous comics. You know what? This is still a bit, for me, I might be too much in the games industry. I'm happy to discuss with you, but that's, of course, virtual worlds, better than Second Life, but still, I mean, what is there? It's animated chat rooms. It could be the future of the internet for sure, but it is not a curated content as we in the games industry deliver it. And you know what? I prefer watching a well-done, made, written story of a Hollywood plotted movie over to an open source dialogue on impromptu actors. I do like scripted content, and that's what gaming is all about. And thus, entertainment needs creators, and then these creators will be paid one way or the other. And I lost my point here. When they stop the game, there will be NFTs, but what remains? And that's a question we also need to discuss, because we know depending on the smart contract, the layer 1 it sits on and so on, there's not much available. So you shouldn't be selling things which maybe are over-promising. Also, I see people in the industry saying that, you know what, now this is play and earn gaming, the first AAA, or the second AAA, or the third AAA role-playing game, RPG. You know, if you have been in the industry, who do you actually want to fool? A AAA MMORPG is being developed by 200 people over 5 years, for example, as close as CD Projekt Red, The Witcher. These are fantastic masterpieces. I dare to prognose that none of the things which we are seeing now will actually in the play-to-earn space really be AAA. So don't call it that way. Just say, you know what, actually that's cool, and it offers possibilities. Which ones?
There are a couple of developing, and they're also building in like in Unity or Unreal Engine, so it's going to be real stuff. It's just the problem of the problem of timing, because we all know that developing even like AA game takes at least a year, so it's just a matter of time for AAA games.
Depending how fantastically quick we are, I fully agree. It takes more.
And we're basically, so
yeah.
If some project starts developing now, it's going to be fully developed in like 3 years or so.
Yeah. Yes. And that will happen, and we will see that happen. And it's just about not over-promising, but being fair to people. We have another question there.
Hey, thanks. How about Illuvium and the Gala game platform? I think Illuvium is my horse
That's
that I'm betting on.
Of course, that I was referring to, or a Star Atlas, or a Teflon Arena. These are fantastic projects. But to be honest, from a gaming perspective, it's a bit early still to say that it will be AAA. It might be, but... Oh yes.
Oh, don't mention Exi, man. That's horrible. That's a rug pull like Fiat, bro, man. For real.
I mean, this is just, to be honest, amongst us, you always need to find someone else. These bigger fool theory things. I mean, you call it Ponzi, you call it whatever. It works as long as it works. So we're running a bit out of time, but what I think it could be called, actually, because I hate the term GameFi, because the core audience, it's 3 billion people playing games. We know all how few hundred millions are using blockchain, DLT. So interesting target audience, and they do not, in essence, want their game, their entertainment be financialized. So if we had DeFi, currently in some dip, apparently, but everybody is, as it comes to valuations. But GameFi, come on, you could have called it D-game, maybe. Decentralizing game, I would have had much less of a problem. But don't put finance into gaming, because you will kill it for the entire developed Western world. I don't want to think about finances when I game. And I want to play for fun. Please don't ruin my gameplay. So I'd call it publishing 3.0, where you take actually players and share what is being done with them, but not asking money of people first. So anyhow, that's the things I'm doing. We're running a bit out of time, so I'm trying to balance free-to-play and play-to-earn mechanics to avoid both the pay-to-win as well as the NFT dislike, because I will never ask people to pay first, play later. And I'm happy to discuss that as we continue during the day. I believe it's complementary markets to a certain degree, where we have core gamers investing time in entertainment, and where we have crypto heads, maybe even called game investors, which have been happy to jump ship on titles which were booming, are maybe still booming, will be great and stuff. And they have maybe a different motivation investing money for financial reasons instead of investing time for entertainment. We have a comment here.
Yeah, so there's gaming development. They're like pay-end. They're also using they'll use NFT. They will also use rent NFT protocol. So you're probably, if you're an investor, for example, you have like dozens of characters to play with, and you don't have time to play with. You can just rent out to like scholars or stuff like that, and they will earn, and you will earn, and everyone profits basically.
That's a very good concept, especially, and that's the important thing. If the game's fun, if there is a growing audience and somehow a surviving mid-term existing audience who plays for the sake of it. If everybody is just hunting for the quick buck, it will fall together. And thus it depends all on the gameplay. So we're doing an MMORPG. Actually, we have been developing it since last summer, when we took over rights of something which had been developed 2 years already before. It is not AAA, I'm not even pretending, but it might as well be at par with certain projects which have been named here. And that's called Oathbound, and it looks a bit like that. And this is Unity Engine 5, by the way, and we do also have Unreal Engine 5, and we do also have a game on Unity. So these are the people doing things, and that's what it is called, as I mentioned initially, being launched on the occasion of having the pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you very much, Barbaros. Thank you very much, the entire NFT Berlin team, and to you as the audience, open the floor for questions.
Hey, thanks. One quick question. If you if you don't want to put the economic parts or the monetary part too much in front, there is still the issue, like if we take the best example, Axie Infinity, it's not about putting the money in front, but if you offer digital ownership and you think that you can resell it, secondary market, whatever, there is a coin involved, and a coin that's a stable and sound financial structure, like tokenomics, economic issues, and that's the point. Like, if you don't put the economic part professionally in the games, you have the shit with Axie Infinity, they have no inflation deflation rate, and it goes sour so well and so fast. And then the people that actually believe in the spot and they can make a lot of money, like in different countries, maybe not in Europe or North America, they get fucked up for real, because if they don't have the competence beside developing a game to see the issues with the monetary structure inherent in the game, then that's just noobish, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that people need to be protected in front of their own greed or spending habits. Absolutely not. And also, I do think that playing even a game, if it is repetitive, we call it grinders, it could be better as a daily payment than doing whatever you do as a person in the Philippines or coming from the Vietnam and so. So I'm talking from a Western perspective. I'm not saying that it's silly to offer them a better way of income. I'm just warning people in a way of look at whether actually there is an audience which will ultimately like the gameplay. And that's debatable. But then again, I mean, if I had a tiny fraction of the success of the Sky Mavis gentleman, I wouldn't be whatsoever ranting here. I would be having bigger stages, and that's of course absolutely perfect. But from a gaming perspective, there is a certain room to increase game quality. Thanks, guys, ladies and guys.